Good day. Today I'm very fortunate to visit one of our very special fanciers here in South Africa, having a very big name in One Loft Racing. He's currently the fancier that hold the record for winning most ace pigeon competitions in Dia's One Loft, and that was for 3 years, as well as in King, winning it 2 times. Back in last year, 2024, he had bred Blue Moon, a pigeon that was leading the ace pigeon competition from the first race and actually won it all the way to the very end and winning the final. Blue Moon also, if I can remember correctly, 7 times out of the 8 races it was the equal winner, the best pigeon ever entered the King One Loft race, and it was bought by Rosen Dobrevi, the black jacket winner of Africa Pro. To this day, he's known in Africa Pro for being one of the most consistent fanciers. For the last 2 years, he's been on the top 10 rankings, and this is a fancier being known, the longer it gets, the better he gets. And the tougher it is, the bigger he smiles. And there's no one else but Lex Webster.
Thank you very much, Hendrik. And yeah, it's just so special that you've taken the time out to come visit us and see the loft and handle some pigeons. And I really just appreciate it and the effort that you're putting in getting around to seeing everyone, and your focus on pigeon racing in South Africa, let alone all over the globe, is phenomenal. So we really appreciate it, and so thanks so much from your side.
No, it's a big pleasure, Lex. I believe you have a very rich history in pigeon racing. It comes now 3 generations, am I right?
That's right, Hendrik, and that's why you'll see we never race under Lex Webster or something like that. Webster Lofts is it's a whole team. It's a family. It's it's generations. I'm the 3rd generation to fortunate enough to carry on with this, and my grandfather, my dad, who's still in the team, and then myself, and then obviously my direct family, my wife and kids, who are so supportive, and everyone else, friends, and it's more than just myself as a fancier. That's what's so humbling about it, and that's why I probably put so much effort into it, because it's not just for me, it's for everyone else as well.
Wow. Yeah. Now, Lex, you had great success last year, 2024, breeding Blue Moon. It was a pigeon winning 6 races out of the 7 races, equal winner actually. Ace pigeon leading the ace from the start in the King. But also in Africa Pro, you also were 2023 going into the final with Gamebreaker was leading the Blue Jacket ace pigeon there as well. But they didn't come back on the final day. But a very good reputation for a person having ace pigeons in South Africa in all One Lofts. But where did the break come? Was there a time in the career of these 3 generations that you feel there was a day or pigeon that done the magic for you, or was no moment like that? What is the highlight for you in the career to this point?
If I had to say that, look, let's take a little step back and let's focus on where the principles came from in building this family. And it came from my grandfather, a very tough kind of individual person that always strove to have the toughest kind of hunting dogs, or whatever it may have been, and then the toughest pigeons. One of those torpies that used to go and toss pigeons at night to make sure he could win the Mikey's, the long races, those type of long races where they went on the train and liberated and forced overnights. That kind of mentality then obviously is filtered down through generations, and racing with my dad and my dad racing is the same. It's like we've always pushed the limits to try and get to a point where we can build this family that we have now, that can fly from the beginning to the end. So I suppose naturally, before One Loft actually started in South Africa and locally, and where we could start entering, is that we were pushing our pigeons way before that within our own kind of competitive streak, I suppose. So there's so much emphasis that people don't understand, is that you analyze each pair, you analyze how their babies perform on velocities, distances, and there's so much homework that goes into it behind the scenes, to be honest with you, in trying to breed and develop what I now call the modern day pigeon, that needs to fly from 200 kilometers to call it 800 kilometers if they have to, 850 in the case of Craddock that flies that long race where we've had success there as well. So it's about pushing yourself and the pigeon family that you have. I think it's a competition between yourself and the pigeon at the end of the day. There's lots of sleepless nights before pairing up what birds, what cock, what hen, after analyzing all the data that you've now gone through yourself. And each year, I very seldom pair up the same pairs. It's been Boston breaking news for a long time, but in between I'll slip in another hen just to check him out and see that he's still going, and he produces it. But it goes way beyond him. I mean, he's been a driving factor in what we're trying to do. But we've gone through the loft today, and you'll see the fourth generation. There's some youngsters that you handle that are down the line that you won't even see in the pedigree. That's how far we're going, trying to conserve the bloodline, but at the same time trying to stay on top and bringing in other pigeons from other successful fanciers.
You're talking conserve the bloodline, and that is, you mentioned Bos itself. I know many of your pigeons have Bos, the name in it itself, so that's certainly a bloodline. Can you tell me more about that bloodline? What is so special about it?
I've always loved racehorses with their names. They don't have numbers, they've got names. Bulls, buffaloes, they've all got special names. So, with the One Loft scene, names became important, or they became important to me. And as you saw, the Boss, he's got a Odin. And I think that's just how he got his name, the Boss. But yeah, super special pigeon. But as I said, it comes down way before him. It comes down from Georgie. George Oswald. So when we saw a gap and we thought, like, let's put ourselves up against the rest of the country where we can now compete on a level that's equal and the birds are treated the same. Let's try and give the One Loft racing a go. And the closest loft to us was obviously the Dyer's Loft. And so we started racing One Loft racing in 2012. First year then would have been 2013. So we bred 2012 to race 2013. Not highly successful. And then my dad, he's also got he feels a bird and there's just something in it. The pedigree doesn't matter. It's what we see in a bird and what we feel in our hands is what we go for. And he bought a cock bred by George Oswald. Started looking at George Oswald's $1 million, a very consistent fancier, always up there. And then you start looking at the names, Luke Donald, Afrika Kopel, that line. And he has a chance, and my dad had bought this cock, but he had bought the cock, and then we started researching who George Oswald was, and we were like, oh, yes, this looks a very well-known One Loft fancier. And I think that's where our key driver came from. 2014, first chicks from Georgie, entered into Dyer's, full throttle, first ace bird, 2014.
Wow.
And that's how we started. So we got success, and the next year we put that same couple again. So that's overseas pigeon bred to our old family lines that come from my grandfather and then from my dad, which was the Oscars, the Sirens, the Jansens. I can't, Gen 007 that I showed you, that would be puts me at the end of what our line was, the original family of birds that we raced. And if you think about those names, they're all hard, long distance, tough kind of pigeons. And then crossed with Georgie, we started seeing, sparks now for the One Loft. And then that set us on course to where we are now, I suppose. So it's looking outside the box, not being stubborn, being willing to bring something else in. And so I would say the biggest factor would have been Georgie, that George Oswald bred that my dad had handled and bought purely on handling.
Yeah. Lex, obviously Georgie and the Bos and the offspring of Bos bring you great success with the ace pigeon and so forth. Over the whole career of these 3 generations, what moments just stand out for you that is very much highlights for you guys?
Hendrik, it's hard to say. I mean, there's certain races that you remember for a long time. But I'd say, like, I put my mind to something and I want to win it. And, it started with dyes, and I wanted to set records and, have consistency. And consistency is key behind what we're trying to do. It's not about, that once off and then you've forgotten, it's about being there every year, being competitive. And, the Blue Moon now is obviously like the pinnacle. But I've worked really hard to get to that point. We've flown a Tenor King for a long time, but we've also used Tenor King to measure and to breed towards now for Africa Pro. It's a similar route, similar terrain. You need to speed the birds up. You've got to add speed to what we've been doing with the birds at dyes. So it comes down to careful planning. And as I say, we've had those pairings. Boss Breaking News, they've done well for us, really well. 3 years in a row on the first drop at Tenor King, top 5 ace birds every time we've sent them, but they also do well at dyes. But then, then you start doing your research and you add a little bit of the Turbo Kittel from John and Barney, and then we had that explosion of Blue Moon.
Yes.
So, we've worked hard at trying to get to where we've done at Tenor King, and that's just how I am. I'm tenacious. I want to accomplish something, and we've bred a first ace bird there before, but it wasn't in the fashion like Blue Moon did it. So the goal is still to accomplish Africa Pro. We want to walk away with those jackets. To be honest, that's my goal. Get one jacket and then try and get the rest.
Which jacket out of all those is for you for now in the...
It's the black jacket.
The black jacket, yeah.
It's the black jacket. It's that prestige. It's being the champion fancier throughout the series.
Tell me, you've been there now. You're going into the final 2023, leading the blue jacket, the ace pigeon. You are known for ace pigeons locally. But and then in the final, obviously the pigeon come and then you just see how you drop out, drop down, and so forth. The emotions that go through you, but in the same question I want to ask, what emotions go through you is also what form of encouragement you can have there for all the other fans out there that go through similar emotion.
Hendrik, to be entirely honest with you, like it's a huge, it's hard to explain. I mean, you sit there and you see that first batch come, but you're dreaming up this image in your mind. The cameras are on the loft, and you're just wanting a blue bar hen to land and go through, and then at the same time you're fortunate enough to be 11th and 12th. Not the bird you're wanting, but you're still there. There were no other fanciers that had 2 birds in the top 20 that day.
Yes.
So you walk away still feeling proud.
Yeah.
But when you're alone and the lights have been switched off and the bar's closed, and you lie in that bed and you can't go to sleep. I can't switch off. And I won't lie to you, the tears start rolling.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's not easy.
Yeah. No, that is. And what I appreciate of you most is that you always come back and you always stays on you in the beginning of every season. We don't see you as much, although we know your pigeons stay in the race. But as it gets longer and tougher, you're just climbing the ladder week after week, and you're just coming up, and then you tend to end up in the top 10 rankings.
So what's interesting is that same bird that didn't come on the final, she was 4th.
In the sprint series,
series. Yeah. She was the 4th bird.
Yeah.
And then she had a little bit of a dip, and then she came back strong.
Yeah, very strong.
And at the same time, you look at what the same pairing has done. They've done 850 kilometers, in the One Loft, and it's done it. They can do it. I know they can do it.
Yeah.
So you sit there, and then you end up sitting next to another fancier, a good friend, Alvan Bester, and at one stage we both found ourselves in this little bubble, sitting in the stands there, just the two of us. Not consoling each other, not really talking much, but just sitting there going, and these are all guys I've looked up to for so long, and always wanted to compete against them. And the two of us were sitting there, I'll never forget it. We were looking at the stand, and we all had not a good final with our birds on that day. So, the support's always there. But yeah, you take it on the chin. And you go back and the think tank works harder, and you just go like, how else can I breed something tougher, faster, stronger? And then the way we work is we put these pairs together, and then we call it a test pairing, and then you send them to a loft and they strike, and then we send them to the big show, Africa Pro.
Yeah. Lex, when your pigeons arrive at Africa Pro, they're always in top knots, in a beautiful basket with your branded name on. And when we take them out there, we can see those pigeons are looked after so well. And you have now the reputation for fans in Africa Pro that is not losing its pigeons throughout a tough racing series. Is it to do with caretaking or with the genetics or both? Can you just tell me more about that part?
Hendrik, as I said before, it's an absolute team effort. I mean, I'm not here the whole time, and my right hand man Hobe, like, I cannot give him enough credit. He's so passionate about the pigeons, and I'm fortunate that he's in our team. He knows every bird. He's as passionate as I am. I'll get home, he gives me basically a debrief on what's been happening in the loft today, and he's a young man that's got such raw talent for pigeons. So it's that team thing again. It's the care of the birds. It's a simple design in the loft. It's nothing fancy. It's we've got to replicate what the birds are going to go through, where they're going next. So we don't pamper the pigeons. I've maintained this for years. I remember my first interview with Robert Swanepoel when he used to do On the Drop. And he would say to me, what if Georgie gets sick? I said, Georgie won't get sick. He's that type of pigeon. It's a natural immune system. If you can keep a loft of birds that have a natural immune system, it makes it easier for yourself. And, it's just by being strict. It's everyone's involvement. It's just attentive. It's attention to detail. It's spending time in the loft, watching the birds, observing those babies, and then making the right choices as to who goes where. It's eyes on the ground. It's just being there and checking each individual pigeon. I don't know the ring numbers of the babies. I know each baby from when it comes out of that box in the pairing to the ground to when it flies up to the perch for the first time, right through. I know which baby is bred from which pair. I don't look at the ring numbers. It's that attention to detail, and Orbe is the same. And even my young kids can come in the loft. Those sections are all the same, but they know which baby came out of which box. It's that kind of attention to detail and just being in it, being in the beehive.
Yeah. To end up 2023 fifth black jacket, last year seventh black jacket. It's no easy task to be in the top 10 ranking, I know, of Africa Pro against the best in the world. Going in this season, what preparation do you do going out from a final where you have high hopes to do better even than the previous year, and then come back to the drawing board? And are you going in this season with more confidence? And what is the thinking and behind the scenes happening to stay in the top 10 rankings?
Yeah, Hendrik, that's a good question. I mean, as I said, there's a lot of thinking that goes behind the scenes. But what's helped now is being going into the fourth season of Africa Pro is that, some of our genetics are now filtered through to other fanciers. And so it's observing pedigrees, it's observing velocities, it's observing race distances, and it's also deciding on where you want to excel. And for us, it's the black jacket. So it's careful consideration on what you send. So it's not a team of the same kind of bird. So going forward, it's a mix. It's a mix-up of the lines that I've showed you. So in case the final does come down hard, we know we've got something in the back pocket, hopefully that's on song for that day and that can come through, because we saw what happened last year and it didn't just, we had 3 birds back on the day out of the 85. My good friend Tyron, second in the final, and then you look and it's the same lines. It's a bit of Boss mixed with the Deja Vu Gabby pairing. that's done well. So, you know, out of that same line, 3 birds for 2 different fanciers on the day. So then you put some of those in, and then you put some blue moon replicas, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then the bosses again. We've gone back to what we had 2 years ago in there. That was leading the blue jacket.
Yeah.
We've sort of put 4 in there now, instead of just 1. We've put 4 in, so let's hope one of those can kick right through. So it's a mix. It's you know, it's like Rassie having the bomb squad. You've got to work it out carefully. I think, you know, and people need to start understanding how tough it is to try and compete at that kind of level. Yeah. You can't just send 15 babies, let's send them. It's careful planning in my consideration.
To all our viewers, I have lots of admiration for Lex Webster. He's a fancy that only sent 1 team every year, and he always makes sure he ends up in the top 10. You're certainly one of the most consistent fanciers out there, which I know of. I don't know of any other fancier that have so many ace pigeons in One Loft Racing. And that's no easy task. And there was once a question on Roger Federer when he was just breaking the record for most Grand Slams. And they said, but he wouldn't if the ball was just 2 millimeter more to the left off the line. And they say, but he put himself in that position so many times that he can win so many times. And you remind me of that. You always put yourself in a top position. Your pigeon stays there to the very end. And very much respected from our side. And good luck for the season coming.
Thank you very much, Hendrik. Yeah, really appreciate it. And that's what we'll carry on trying to do, is be as consistent as we can. And then that lucky break comes at the end through consistency. So, yeah, that's what we're going to carry on trying to do. So thanks again.
All the best.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.